Hello dear learners, welcome back to my channel. In our previous video, we had learned a concept of inversion of control, wherein we had learned that rather than creating a dependency in a class by creating objects of its associated class in the class itself and increasing the coupling between two classes, we could use an external container which provides this object to the class, and the class can just declare that it needs a particular dependency. Such a concept is known as inversion of control. This also helps us in making our code loosely coupled. So in this video, we will be talking about something called as dependency injection. Dependency injection, in a way you can say, is an implementation of the inversion of control pattern, right? So let's get started. So dependency injection is an implementation, you can say, which is used to implement the IOC pattern, and it is a process wherein which we can define dependencies in one another. So if there is a particular class, as we had seen in the previous video, that there is a car class and there is a tire class, and the car class is dependent on the tire class. So if there is any such dependency that we want to define, we can do that with the help of dependency injection without actually going ahead and creating objects in the class. So dependency injections are injected using three different ways. One, you can do that through constructor arguments. Two, you can do them using arguments to a factory method, or you can use properties that are set on the object's instance. So let's go ahead and further see an example on dependency injection. So let's say this is the example that we had even taken in our previous videos. In case if you are interested in seeing my previous videos, I'll share the link of my whole playlist here, which you can check out, right? So in the previous example or in the previous video also, we had taken a car example and a tire example. So here again we are taking the same example wherein I have a car class, and the car class has a dependency on the tire class. So to define that dependency, we are creating an object of the tire class in the car class itself. This is one way, or this is a traditional way, you can say, of doing it, right? Now in the dependency injection way, we actually don't go ahead and create an object. You can see here, we are not creating any new object here. Rather, it will come into the class via the constructor. Okay, so this is one of the ways in which you can inject a dependency in the class, that is via the constructor. So the class, you can see, car class, is actually not defining the object of the tire class. It is just saying that I need a tire object, and it is being provided to the car class via the constructor. So this is one way, you can say, in which dependency injection are implemented. Let's go ahead and see in what various ways can I implement dependency injection. So you can see here that dependency injection in Spring can be done through constructors, setters, or fields. So let's see the first way of doing it, that is constructor-based dependency injection. Now you can see that this is a implementation of constructor-based dependency injection, wherein I have this app config class. Okay, this is basically a configuration class. You can see this annotation here, @configuration, that signifies that this is going to be a configuration class or a bean factory kind of class, which will do what? Which will generate objects for us of various classes. Also, this @bean annotation signifies that this is going to provide us, or this particular method is going to provide us, a bean object. So you can see here that I have two methods here, a tire method and a car method, and I have bean annotations on both because both the methods are going to provide me objects. The tire object will provide me the object of the tire class, whereas the car will provide me the object of the car class. And you can see here the car class in its constructor is calling the tire. So here you can see it is providing us the dependency from here. So whenever I want to use a car class or a tire class in my code, I can use this particular configuration class and implement the dependency, or you can say I can inject the dependency. So such a way of implementing it is known as class configuration, wherein I have a class which is behaving like a configuration class for me because of this configuration annotation and providing me the dependencies. Another way, you can say this is a more primitive way because this came first, but still it is used widely, is the XML way of doing it, wherein you can see I have created tags here called as bean tag, wherein I am creating a tire variable, and I'm saying that this is going to be of type com.learning.mrftires. Similarly, I have a car class, okay, for which I'm creating a bean here, and I'm saying the class of this is going to be com.learning.car. So this is where I'm actually providing the physical packages. Where exactly are these classes present? What you need to notice here is that this particular bean tag gets over here itself, but this one does not. In this particular bean class, we have added another tag called as a constructor arg or a constructor argument tag, wherein we are providing a type that it is going to be type mrf tires, index is going to be 0, name is going to be tire, and it is going to refer to this particular tire object. So you can see this ref is referring to this tire object, and it defines the dependency for the bean class here via the constructor argument. Okay, so that is what it does. So this is how we can define a constructor based dependency injection in two ways. One, you can do it through a configuration class, or you can do it via XML. Both are valid ways. You can choose whatever is convenient to you. Right? Another approach that we have is setter based dependency injection, wherein here you can see again we have a configuration class. Again we have an object of the tire class, which is getting defined here using the bean tag. And here there is a difference. Here you can see that in the car method, definitely we are creating a car object, but inside the constructor we are not passing any arguments, which was the case here. You could see that inside the car constructor we were passing the arguments, which is not the case here. Here what we are doing is we are basically calling a setter of tire. So I'm saying car.set tire, and there is where I'm calling the tire method, which provides me the object and it gets set here, and then I'm returning the car object. So this is how I'm providing the dependency to my actual class. So again, this is the class configuration method. Similarly, we have the XML configuration way of doing it, wherein I'm again creating a bean tag which has a car class that it refers to is com.learning.car, and here you can see I have a property tag. In the previous case, we had the constructor arg as a tag which referred to a constructor argument, but here we have a property tag which refers to a property in the class. The name of the property is going to be tire, and it is going to refer to the tire. I have not defined it here because we saw it in the previous example. Here if you see, it is going to be very similar to this, right? Bean id tire com.learning.mrf. So I have not rewrote it here. It is going to be the same one. So you can say it is referring to that same tire bean which was defined in the previous slide, right? So this is the configuration class which we are using here to provide us the objects, or to define our beans to be more precise, and this is the XML way of doing it, right, to provide us a bean object, right? So this is setter based dependency injection, wherein we use the property tag, okay, or we use a setter method basically, okay. So that's the second one. The third one is basically a field based dependency injection, wherein we will be using an auto wired annotation. Okay, now this auto wired annotation is newly provided after the annotations were introduced in Spring, although it has been there from quite some time now, since Spring 3. But yeah, so in this particular approach, basically we used an annotation called as auto wired, which can be used above a setter method, above a constructor, or above a field. So when you're using it above a setter method or above a field, you can say it is basically by type, and when you're doing it constructor, it's basically constructor. So the way we saw two examples previously, that was a constructor based and a property based or setter based as we call it. This is going to be the same approach. So we can use the auto wired annotation on the setter method. We can use it over the constructor, or we can use it over a field. The way you can see here in this particular example, it is getting used over the field. Okay, so this will automatically try to find the dependency and implement it. So this is basically field based dependency injection that you are seeing here as an example, but the auto wired annotation, as I mentioned earlier, can be used on setters and constructors also. Okay, going further, auto wiring dependencies. Now all the approaches that we saw before this were manual approaches, wherein we were manually defining a dependency using either the XML configuration or the configuration class base. Okay, So they were manual dependencies that we were defining. Spring also provides the options of having auto-wired, okay, the dependencies. How do you do that? Now, wiring or auto-wiring allows the Spring container to automatically resolve dependency between collaborating beans by inspecting the beans that have been defined. So here it will automatically try to identify what is the dependency between two classes. Okay. Now for this, you can again provide this in the XML files, or you can use the auto-wired annotation that we saw in the previous slide and put it in the appropriate location to tell that what kind of dependency that we want, right? So we will see that also in detail of what are the various ways. So there are in all 4 modes of auto-wiring that we can use for a bean, and they can be either done using XML configuration that we'll see here. Okay, they can also be used, also be implemented using the auto-wired annotation. Okay, now there are different implementations, as you can see. One is a no auto-wiring mode, which is the default auto-wiring mode, which says it means there is no auto-wiring. So in that case, we will have to do the manual ones that we saw in the previous slides, right? Another one is by name, wherein in the XML file we add an attribute that says by name or auto-wiring by name, which means what? That the dependency will be according to the bean name. So it will match the bean name and it will add up the dependency to the class. The third one is by type. By type says it talks about data types. Okay, so by type mode injects the object dependency according to type. So let's say if it is a string type argument and we've said that the dependency is going to be by string, so it will automatically add up that particular variable which is of type string. Let's say I have a car object or a tire object as my dependency, okay, and I say my dependency is going to be type tire, so it will automatically add the type of dependency. So that is by type. Constructor is where the dependency is injected by calling the constructor of the class. Okay, so again that is one more approach via constructor. And the last one is auto detected, wherein we do not specify whether it is by type or by constructor. It will first try to auto wire by constructor. If it fails via constructor, it will try to implement by type. So these are the various approaches: a no mode wherein there is no auto wiring, by name, by type, constructor, and auto detect. Again, one needs to remember that when I'm talking about auto wiring dependencies, as we saw in our previous slides, we are not going to manually define using the various tags like a constructor tag that we had, or a property tag that we had, or the way we were setting, using the setter methods or constructors. No, this will automatically happen. Spring will automatically resolve. We just need to add one attribute here in the XML that we have, or the XML bean tag that we have, and Spring will do the remaining job. You don't need to manually say that. Again, we will see all this in detail. I'll be showing you examples of each of these approaches, in our next video. So stay tuned for that. In our next video, we will be talking about auto wiring dependencies and how they are implemented. We'll see examples for each type of dependency that you just now saw. So just wait for the video, and please support my channel. Subscribe to my channel if you like my videos. And please comment on my videos of whatever feedback, in case if you want to give, or maybe you want to share some opinions, or you have some queries. Please write them down. I like reading your comments. I like replying to them. So please mention whatever you want to in the comments. That is it. Thank you. Bye bye.